Hello everybody, Caden here today with another episode of WildLife Park. And I know, what's this? We're back in the North American section of the zoo. What nonsense is this? I thought we finished that, Caden. I did too, but someone did inform me there was a way to get Mo creatures to work again with ZAWA, so I've gotten it back. So we have Mo creatures back in, which means we have a new plethora of animals to use. And for today's episode, I decided to do something very different. You guys might be like, what do you mean? Like forest animals or woodland animals or whatever I've named this episode. I realized there were a lot of North American type animals we could use. However, a lot of them are very small, and I didn't feel like doing tons and tons of really small enclosures. Like spending multiple episodes building several small builds that, would be like, it would take me less than 10 minutes to build them. So I wanted something I could actually time-lapse, I guess. And I remembered something from the zoo near my house, where I think it's the Arizona section of the zoo. So it's got like lots of small animals from Arizona, and it has them in these small. In real life, it'd probably be something about like 3 or so foot tall walls that go around and separate all the animals from each other, but you can like look over and see. Now obviously I couldn't do something like that in this game very effectively, so I decided to do an elevated pathway. But basically what I decided to do was I was going to take a bunch of these small animals we have access to and put them into 3 different enclosures that were all connected to each other. So it was kind of like this, they're all technically one exhibit, but it's 3 different enclosures type thing. And I think it worked out really well in the end. I'm quite happy with how it looks. Although I will say when we get to the river section, you kind of see that that's the one thing I really would like to change about the build overall. Definitely shrink down the river, and I mentioned that in the post time-lapse look at the exhibit. But overall, I think it was a good decision. Now I'm gonna rebuild these walls a lot because I didn't quite know how I was gonna be doing these exhibits. But yeah, I did go with sandstone for the enclosure walls, and I think it was an interesting idea, and I quite like it because, and I'll talk about this later as well, it had a very unique feel to it. It felt a lot more light and happy almost than, oh my goodness, I did not even realize that the railing is off center. Huh, I'll have to fix that at some point, I guess. But it had a much more light feeling to it than most of our exhibits do, and I think that's just because most of the time our exhibits have like, what would I call it, very dark background. So having a really light background for the exhibit I think worked really well, and it looked kind of nice, and yeah, I was a big fan of it. But yeah, anyway. As you can see, I'm kind of filling in the exhibit now, and I'll go and tear down those walls. But anyway, the animals we decided to go, I decided to go with for these exhibits were, I think the entire list is foxes, raccoons, porcupines, hedgehogs, bass, turtles, and ducks. So that's like 8 animals. We have like 8 different animals living in these exhibits. Some like the ducks, the turtles, and the bass, I think are in like all of them. I don't think I put ducks in the fox exhibit because that didn't seem like a good idea to me. But yeah, so we have a pretty good mixture of exhibits. I think it turned out pretty good. What am I thinking here? Oh yeah, so I quite like this exhibit, and I think it's an exhibit thing we're gonna do in the future. In fact, I think we've already got this set up for the jungle area, and I've already talked about that, and that we'll probably, where we built our sloth exhibit, we'll probably build a lot of our monkey exhibits, and our small monkey exhibits, and they'll be in a very similar style to the sloth exhibit, because I think that style just worked well, and it very much reminds me of this, just small little enclosures that are kind of linked together for a bunch of small animals. So we don't need to, do tons of tiny individual enclosures and stuff like that. And I think when we eventually get around to doing the monkeys, I might do them 2 at a time. I won't do all of them in one video, but it's like, maybe we'll do like a spider monkey and an orange tamarin together, and then, or like in one episode, and then we'll do, I don't know, like, what are other types of monkeys? A capuchin and I don't know, a macaque? Aren't those monkeys? I think they are. Maybe those are apes. I don't remember. Anyway, Yeah, something like that. So I decided to do the usual riverbed. In fact, I think over here, well, since it was so deep, it would have made sense to make it, or so wide, I should have made it deeper, but then in the end, I'm kind of glad I didn't, because that means I don't have to fill anything in when I eventually go back in and, again, shrink down the size of the river, because you're already looking at this probably, and you're going like, wow, that's like half the exhibit, and I realized later, like, wow, that is way too much water in these things. I mean, even the amount of water I put in this one, which has the least amount of water in it, was just too much. But at the time, I was thinking more like, oh, I want to have a lot of room for fish and turtles and stuff. But then I remembered, or well, forgot kind of that Minecraft mob AI is pretty terrible, and that they kind of automatically try and get in the water if there's water in their exhibit for some reason. So that didn't really work out too well. But hey, you know what? You live and you learn. You live and you learn. But yeah, overall, You'll see it comes together a lot more when everything's put together. I did line the water up for each of the exhibits, and I think I should have put a grate in somewhere, like some little iron bars or something, because I think that would have looked cool. Very much reminds me of the old Chinini Falls build I did in one of my Dino series ages ago. If anyone remembers that, you know what I'm talking about. That was a good build. But having a connected water feature between all the exhibits and connected like stuff, so it's less of like, you know, again, one exhibit, several enclosures type thing, and I don't know, I think that really turned out well. And again, it's somewhat giving me ideas for how to do more exhibit types like this, where it's, you know, different and trying to expand the ideas for what makes a zoo exhibit and all that, because, you know, I don't want it to get stale and we keep doing the same build over and over like I kind of felt like we started to do with some of these builds. I'd like, you know, the animals to have more varied enclosures, you know, so when you travel from area to area, you're not just going to see the same box set over and over, you're going to see lots of interesting looking builds. So if you guys have any ideas for interesting little exhibits I could make, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Oh, speaking of which, I do kind of know the next animal I'd like to do. I will say there's two other animals I know for sure are going to go in this section of the zoo. There are two more, by the way. The deer and the wild boar, I believe, are going to go in this part of the zoo, and then maybe a wolf if I can find a good mod, or I'll just use the vanilla Minecraft wolf. But I really want to do a snow leopard exhibit, and I think that's actually going to link off the North American section, even though, yes, I know, snow leopards live in the Himalayas, not North America, but the North American section has a really good connection over to the mountains, which would be really easy to just like make a small bridge over it, and then, you know, from there make an exhibit up in the hills with all the snow to make a really pretty snow leopard exhibit. I might do that. Or we'll make the East Asian area over that direction somewhere. Or not over that direction, over by the tropical stuff. I don't know, we'll figure it out, I've realized I've kind of made this more the zoo is much more by biome than country, which I think is how most zoos are set up, aren't they? I don't know. But yeah, I put in a lot of flowers in this exhibit, and I think I included too many purple ones because the exhibits end up having a very purple look. Not from up here, not from above, but when you really get down to like ground level and look at it, before I put in like the blue and the white ones, oh my goodness, it was like, I don't know, it was like looking at just fluorescent purple constantly. It was kind of jarring. But yeah, I just threw in some grasses. I wasn't originally going to put in any trees, but I do put in some those custom pine trees we have in some of the other North American exhibits. Or I guess I should say like the boreal forest, or the forest exhibits. Should we just say forest? Yeah, I guess it's just the forest and Great Plains kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess it wouldn't make sense then for the bison to be here. I guess it is just the North American area, isn't it? It is, yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I've got, so I will end, I guess, the voiceover here and catch back up with you guys when I go and show off the exhibit. Alright guys, and here is the final version of the exhibit. Bar a few things I may have accidentally missed. I don't really know how I'm doing the stairs yet. But anyway, this is our small, I guess, woodland animals exhibit. Now yes, I have realized I put far too much water in every single one of these. This was meant to be more of like a small river, not a lake. So yeah, I'll probably shrink this down at some point and kind of make it smaller. But we got a lot of interesting animals here. This one definitely needs a lot less water because they seem to get stuck on the lily pads for some reason, and I don't really know why. But yeah, we have a good variety of animals here. We've obviously got raccoons, we've got foxes, porcupines, hedgehogs, turtles, ducks, turkeys, bass. Lots and lots of stuff. Color palettes pretty much just taken from the buffalo exhibit, and I actually kind of regret this somewhat. In that, with the buffalo exhibit, it works pretty well having all these different flower types I used. But why it worked so well, I think, is because the buffalo exhibit is really big. So there's a lot of space for it, so it doesn't like feel like it's super crowded. Whereas with this exhibit, or these three exhibits, they're all very small, so putting lots and lots of flowers in, you guys will have seen during the time lapse that at one point, you know, it was just a purple blob essentially. I mean, it was varying shades of purple, but still just tons of purple. I didn't put too many trees, and I might add a third one in this exhibit. This one's fine. I don't really think there's space for another tree here. In all honesty, more of the trees will probably be like we did over there, and they'll just be behind it. But I don't know. I quite like this little area. It's different. It's cool. It's kind of inspired by a what is it? There's a section at the zoo near my house that has something like this with other animals. Obviously nothing quite to this scale, but still cool. I think still cool. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. We tried out a new block here with the bamboo fence, and I think that looks pretty good overall. Yeah, I like it quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, there is stuff I'd still try and fix with this exhibit. It's not quite perfect, but you know what? For what I was going for, it's pretty darn close, I think, yeah, the biggest thing is just shrinking down the amount of water in the exhibits and maybe adding a bit more terrain elevation. But yeah, I think overall, I do like I was trying to find a good block to make these, like the walls / separating wall things out of, and I did land on sandstone at the end of the day, and I think that's a good choice. I think it's a good color. It's very bright, and I think that's kind of nice because a lot of these exhibits, I mean, I think bar the bison, because the bison has like hay and stuff and all the flowers, so it gets this naturally bright look to it. But I mean, like the moose is a very dark exhibit, the beavers have a very dark exhibit, the eagles and the bears, like they all have very gloomy looking exhibits. So this is just a very bright, happy looking little area, and I don't know, I just really like it. But yeah, that's that. So yes, I did get Mo creatures working as well, so we have a lot more animals, which is why I decided to do this. In fact, I think we have 3 more North American type exhibits I'm going to do. Also, I'm starting to have a sneaking suspicion that's not a North American porcupine, and that in fact that's an African porcupine, which means it should not go in here, but I'm gonna keep them in here because I wanted a porcupine exhibit in the North American area. We do have a couple North American animals left to do. We have the wolf, which either I'm gonna find a good mod for one, or I'm just gonna use the default one from Minecraft. A deer exhibit, which I think might go somewhere over here. And then I think the final animal we have is a boar, which might go somewhere around here. But yeah, we've kind of sectioned off this part of the North American area. It's going to be done pretty soon, and then we should be ready to go. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you've all enjoyed, and until next time, guys, see ya.